strange cases. A million ways to fall in love with all of the mistakes. It's a perfect place to keep up with the pace and navigate a maze meticulously engineered to make a payday. Hey, hey, who are you? What's your deal? What you coming to take? Are you for real?
K1 was on Eurosport at least 2 times a week. So we're in front of these people every, twice a week. It's amazing. And so, I mean, I went to India one time and I'm walking through a market and people came up and said, hey, excuse me, you're Ray Sefo? What are you doing here? You know what I mean? This is in, it was in New Delhi. And so it just told me how big K1 was,
And how much did that blow your mind, having somebody come up here and do that?
Yeah, no, it really did. It really did. I mean, it completely, it's more than I had ever expected, and even to be in India and be noticed, it's mind-blowing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And the thing was with me is, of course, through the 90s, you had the beginning of the UFC. And I really didn't find out about K1 until, what was the video game that came out?
The PlayStation game?
Yeah, the PlayStation game.
Yeah.
What year was that out?
There was one in 98, and then every year after that.
Yeah, it must have been right. It might have been like maybe the 2000, right around there.
Yeah.
Is when I found out about it. And then that's like, oh, that's totally different, because I remember as a kid, I would always watch, every once in a while you'd see kickboxing matches on, and like Bill Wallace and things like that. And you're like, oh
right.
man, that's so cool because you're watching these movies and things like that. And you're like, that's like, when I decided to start doing podcast, and when this comes out, it'll come out. And I'm gonna bring the podcast, not just this one, but the whole thing will start July the 22nd. My first one was with Jeff Speakman.
Oh wow!
Okay, and the reason why is because I loved The Perfect Weapon when I was a kid. Right?
Honestly, I love that movie. Again, as a young kid, martial artist, watching that, I was like, oh wow. And movies like that, obviously inspired me. And it's one of the reasons why, I wanted to do martial arts was because of all these amazing martial artists.
Yeah. And, and that's, I was lucky enough to get him on. I was like, oh, that's really nice, but then I found out about K1. Now, let me ask you a question. Excuse me. You had all these years. Why did you not do anything with MMA, or was that not really something that you was looking into at that point in time?
I mean, the truth be told, I didn't really think much about MMA at the time, because when I first saw MMA in '93, I was actually in Orange County visiting my brother, and I saw that first match, and I was like, "What is that? That's not fighting. These guys are just rolling around on the ground." And so I didn't think much about it. And then when I got signed to K1, I ended up, and K1 owned 20% of Pride. And so we were able to go to any show that we wanted to. Now, if you look back in '93 and fast forward to 2000 or to '98, the knowledge and and how the sport evolved so much.
Yep.
These guys were not only striking, they were getting out of submissions, they were getting taken down. So now I got to see the sport as a whole. Yeah. And that completely blew my mind.
Yeah, it actually went from the 90s of being, martial art fighting to an MMA, with the whole mixed martial art thing. And when did you have your first MMA bout?
My first MMA bout was, it was I want to say 99.
Oh, wow. Okay.
99. Could have been 2000 actually. But yeah.
And how'd that go?
I won by second round knockout actually. How that came about, I just fought in the Grand Prix. Finished that, which was early December. And of course, K1 and Pride like to do the Dynamite show at the end of the year, New Year's Eve. And so I fought the 6th of December. So, and then it wasn't until I think the 10th or the 11th that they called me and said, we really want you to be on this card. The good thing is I was already fit and ready to fight because I just fought in the, 3-fight tournament. And so I had a little, a few bruises here and there, but it was okay. And then when they told me who I was fighting, I said, listen, give me some footage. And he was Kim, I forget his name now, Kim Ming-Soo, that's right. And he was a silver medalist in judo, and his record at the time was, I think he was 5-1, 6-1, something like that, as an MMA fighter. And so, but then when I watched his footage, and this is now me understanding MMA, right? Understanding the, when I watched his footage, the only way he could take him down is if he clinched. He didn't wrestle. I'm like, okay, good, I'll take it. Because, for Muay Thai, in MMA or wrestling, when you pummel in this way.
Yep.
When in Muay Thai, you pummel here, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I was used to that kind of grappling and feel, if you will. And so I was confident that he won't be able to take me down. And at one point he did eventually, we were on the ropes and so I sat down like a sumo wrestler and he was trying to pull me off the ropes. And eventually I went with him and I swept his leg and took his back. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to put hooks in. I'm going to try and get a rear naked choke on a sumo medalist judo dude. And so, and my brother and my corner all knew what I was thinking. They were like, hell no, get your ass up. No, get up. So I had to listen. I pulled my arm out and got up. But in my head, I was thinking, I'm gonna get my first rear naked choke.
Yep.
Now, I think that the move was, I think it was a smart move that I got up because I might have gotten to his back, but he might have been able to, he knows more about the ground than I did. And honestly, with that training camp, because we only had 2 weeks, all we did was 1, 2, 3, kick, sprawl. 1, 2, kick, sprawl. That's all we did.
Man. It is funny, like how how you're thinking about it in your head at the time, but then you're thinking about it later on down the road and you're like,
right,
yeah, that's probably a good decision that I didn't sit there and try to do that, right? So I'm going to sit there and say this, right? I can sit there and talk about your past 100% probably all day long, but so I don't take up too much of your time. Let's move on to the second part of really what the short round's about. What martial arts is doing for you now? Obviously you've got the PFL, and I wanted to ask you a question as soon as you sit there and brought that up about the how the K1 had their end of the year show.
Right.
All right, that popped in my head. Is that where you kind of get your end of the year thing for the PFL? Is that kind of like an homage?
Right. Well, the whole format, how I put together the actual format season for PFL is actually from my own experiences. So I took K1 the way they did. You fought, a certain amount of times throughout the year. You qualify for the top 16. The top 16 fight off. And the winning 8 goes to the Grand Prix where you fought 3 times in one night. Well, I didn't really want to do the 3 fights in one night, so I ended up putting the K1 kind of format into American wear sports, where we had a regular season, playoffs, and championship, and it works. And
No,
so
it
that's
does
kind of
work.
how, and that's how I, put that together. It was just from my own experiences and seeing that. And in terms of answering your question about what does martial arts, and I thank God every day that because I wake up every day loving my life, loving what I do, and everything that I do within my life. I equate everything back to martial arts, and if I run into a certain difficulty, I equate it back to martial arts and I find out how did I get through this, and then apply it to that. And so martial arts is.
So you actually took experiences from when you was actually fighting to
Right.
help overcome fights in your actual life.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And which is an awesome thing too. So when it comes down to your, it was before it was the PFL, it was what, the World Fighting
World Series of Fighting. Yes.
World Series of Fighting. And so can you explain, because I was into branding and marketing for a while, and
Right.
what was your reason for rebranding it and switching names and things like that? And I thought it was cool that you was the owner and actually had a fight. Why use the boss?
So the format for PFL is actually the format I wanted to start WSOF with. And due to other partners that said that they were going to come on board, that didn't happen. And so I ended up going back to the original, promotion, if you will, because I didn't want. And if, I don't know if you remember, but back when we first announced it, that's how we announced the $1 million tournament, and it was going to be a season. And then when
I do remember that.
Right, and so when that fell through, we decided that we was going to still, that we were going to move forward with it, but just do the normal promotion. And so, and listen, I'm a true believer. Listen, I don't believe everything happens for a reason, but I'm a true believer that a lot of things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think, so, and as they say, some people come into your life to teach you a lesson, and some people come into your life and they stay forever, right?
Yep.
And
or that lesson they're teaching is either good or bad.
Right, exactly. Right. And one way or the other, you're learning something.
Yep.
So I think that's what happened with WSOF. And I'm glad that when Don Davis and the team came on board and wanted to rebrand, it all worked. You know what I mean? And so when we went away from WSOF and turned it into Professional Fighters League, it really does, have a better ring to it, if you will.
Oh, it's a cool name. I mean, come on.
Right.
I mean, and it's, and that right there, league puts it into a different thing than just, UFC or Bellator and things like that. It does make it, stand out, from itself. Matter of fact, because Brittany Elkins, I done a show with her a few weeks ago, and I actually love how the setup is, and it is kind of exciting. First round knockout, you get a point. First round you get a point, knockout you get a point. But why no elbows? Is that just something you didn't want to do, or?
Well, because the first regular season fight happens. The second regular season fight happens 7 to 8 weeks later. And the last thing I wanted was people getting cut. And getting cut with an elbow is easy,
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want people to, the commission saying, oh, no, that cut is too deep for you to fight again in 8 weeks. And so that was the main reason why I wanted to take out elbows, because it's just an easier weapon to cut somebody with. And so we wanted to make sure that was different also.
Well, look at the big brain on Ray. making sure that doesn't happen. And that actually, you know what? And that 100%, I really wasn't thinking about that until you said that. That actually makes 100% sense.
Right.
You know, you know, yes, you can get busted up by, you know, just getting hands thrown on you, but elbow is a little bit different. So that is exciting. How much involvement, you know, do you actually have? Because I'm always on your Instagram and stuff. Matter of fact, I've been trying to get you on a podcast for a long time, and every once in a while you would answer back, "I'll just hit me up." And I've been trying, but I always see your Instagrams. You're always training with people. You're always doing something. So you're not just an owner. You're more of a hands-on owner, I would say.
Right. Yep. 100%.
And why is that? Because, you know, you really don't have to, do you? But is this something you choose to do?
I love this life. I love martial arts. I love what I do. I love signing an autograph. I'm signing a contract and seeing the fighters' face light up. You know what I mean? I love. It's just, you know, you hear this all the time, and I don't want to, you know, but you hear this all the time where when you do what you love, it's not work.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with that. Like, I'm a living proof of that saying itself. Like, I wake up every morning and I just, I thank God every day, 5, 6, 7, 10 times a day, if you will, because I just, you know, I'm so grateful and so blessed to be in the position that I am. Because, you know, all my hard work as a fighter, which I didn't know at the time, would actually amount to what's happening right now in my life. You know what I mean? And so,
and it's had to give you a totally different kind of life, and for your family too, right?
100%. You know, I have 2 little ones, and I'm so glad that I'm able to provide for them. And like, as you know, I grew up in the, you know, as a normal kid in New Zealand. My parents didn't own anything in their lives, and so it was you lived week by week or paycheck by paycheck, and so we never had toys, or we barely had, I don't even remember if we had presents for for birthdays and whatnot. You know what I mean? And so to be able to provide that for my kids, it's just an amazing feeling. And again, like I said, you know, I thank God every day, and that what I'm supposed to do in my life is exactly what I'm doing right now.
Now, was that your daughter on your Instagram post where you was holding pads for the other day? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I seen her form in that kick, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have to get on my 4.5-year-old. Tell her start doing something with your life.
You know, the fun thing is, she said, like, both of them are both athletic, and she answers. She all the time she's like, "Dad, I want to hit the pads." I said, "Okay, let's go." You know. And that's one of the things that I stay in shape as well. Is like, my son would say, "Dad, can we go outside and throw the ball around?" Yeah. You know, I'm like, "Let's go." You know what I mean? So I stay active, and I just love what I do. And so, I mean, we have an amazing staff at PFL. Our team is just, you know, it's complete, and it's awesome to do, like, to wake up every morning and every day and just enjoy what you do. And that's what I do, from coaching, you know, and I have fighters that fight in the UFC, fight in PFL, fight in Bellator, you know, and some guys will come in from, like, some fighters will come in from across the world that fight for PFL, and they'll be like, "Hey, Coach, is it okay if I can do some work with you today?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." You know?
Yeah, you definitely put in some work. You definitely put in some work.
And it's just giving back. Like, a lot of that is giving back to the sport as well, you know. And so I thoroughly enjoy everything that I do, to do with not only work, but with martial arts, and very blessed, put it that way. And I'm very grateful that I'm in the position that I am.
Ray, let me ask you, like, what is your process of when you go look for fighters? Like, do fighters come to you, or do you, go out and see like here in Oregon, there's the Arena Wars, and they're constantly all over, and they go over different parts. I think they're affiliated with like NBC or CBS. It might be NBC, where they put out the fights worldwide and things. Like, do you look for those organizations, or do you look, how do you find your fighters? What's your process in that?
Before, I want to say in the first part of the first year of WSOF, we had to go looking for fighters. With PFL, obviously I have accumulated relationships throughout the years and met a lot of good managers and whatnot. So majority now they come to us, and then a lot of fighters from overseas also, or managers from overseas will. And the amazing thing about social media is that now they can reach you at any time. You know what I mean? They don't have to try and find your number or your email address. They just contact you directly. Yeah. And so social media in that sense has helped a lot as well.
Okay.
Where they can just fighters themselves will reach out to you.
Okay. Now I have a question too. Which is harder when you're holding pads for Cy? Is it his power or how much that man sweats? Because when Cy puts in work, that man right there, it looks like somebody's just pouring a faucet on him. Like he just,
right. Yeah.
But what a nice guy he is, though.
Such an amazing human being, like such a great guy. Love Sadabu to death. He's an amazing guy. But I never knew how powerful he was until I held pads for him. And I'm like, you're kidding me. It's like, because when you watch him fight, you don't really see his power because it's so quick too.
And he's so lanky, so it kind of like, that kind of hides it all.
So, because I remember when he stopped David Machar with that body kick, and watching it on camera, it didn't look like much, but feeling it on pads, I was like, oh, now I know how that poor dude felt. You know what I mean? And I understand why. So yeah, he's definitely powerful and strong. But yeah, and he's not only a great fighter, but he's a great guy too.
Yeah, he is. Because I've been talking to him almost about as long as the PFL's been out. Me and him have been chatting online and stuff. Also, before we go into the next question of what's the plans for you in martial arts, let me just hit a couple key points here just for my own personal geekness. Okay. Of course, Carissa Shield.
Yep.
How's that looking for you in the future with her?
Yeah, I believe Carissa. I mean, obviously, Carissa is looking to fight MMA again real soon. But I want to say she has a boxing fight coming up also. So,
yeah. She does. Yeah.
Right.
Since against Savannah, and that right there's like a big rival. So that's definitely going to be interesting.
That's going to be definitely. And so I believe she's also changed camps, and I've just seen lately in this past week, she's doing a lot of things with Henry Cejudo. Also one of the best in the game, and so. But yeah, no, definitely she will be. After her boxing fight, I think she'll be looking to fight MMA again later on in the summer.
Good. All right. And then one more, Kayla Harris.
I mean, what can you say about Kayla Harrison? I mean, Kayla Harrison is a beast. She's an amazing person, a great athlete, and, we got to see her really trying to, like in her last fight, she messed up with Marina, and Marina is also very good at grappling as well.
Yep.
And being I think a 7-time Sambo world champion. And Kayla had to work hard to get that win, but it just goes to show that when time comes for her to step up, she just steps up, and that's just who she is.
Yeah, I think sometimes like what I just see of her, and especially after fights, man, she's probably one of the hardest persons on her performance than anything,
Right.
or any coach or anybody, or even the boss man could ever put on her, huh?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's what makes her so great is like she's willing to, like, she's not afraid to break you down, break yourself down, you know?
Yeah.
And, and, and I think that's what keeps her motivated, and she keeps challenging herself that way, is by being that critical. Um, and then again, she comes out and performs. And so she's done it millions of times in judo, and she's doing it in MMA. And she's still undefeated. And she's definitely one of these special human beings that are going to continue to grow. Not only now that she's a mom as well.
Yeah.
We're going to see a little bit of the other side of Kayla, if you will.
Like if you look at her Instagram, when she's in fight mode, she's in fight mode, but when she's in mom mode, she's in mom mode. And I really like a lot of like her like the book that she put out, because like my wife, she was into helping sexually and physically abused children for almost 20 years. So I thought that was really cool about her also, that she's, because that's a taboo that people don't want to talk about, but unfortunately it does need to be talked about. And sometimes it's just the correct people to talk about it, right?
100%. Her and I just shared a moment before her last fight. I think about a week before her last fight, or 2 weeks before her last fight, we shared a moment, and she lost her dad, I think it was, to suicide, and I lost my second eldest brother to suicide. And I wanted to reach out to her also and let her know that she wasn't alone, and that that I support her 100 billion%, and I know what that is like, and so on. And not many people know that, and so I wanted to share that moment with her as well.
Yeah, I've had it on my side of the family, not with like the immediate family, but like my cousins and things like that. Right. And it's not something that is easy or or should be dealt with easily. It's something that's very personal to somebody. Both sides. On both sides, the person that commits suicide, or the family that's left behind to also deal with it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I remember like it was yesterday. I was 5 years old when my brother took his life in front of me.
Oh, in front of you. Well, that's definitely going to leave you with some PTSD and emotional problems. Oh man, let me tell you what. Just with me and my wife's been married for 9 years, and I was sexually abused as a child. My father physically abused me and things like that. And finding a person like my wife that explains to you, like, all this stuff can happen into your life, but you can stop that cycle.
Yep.
You don't 100%. You don't have to sexually abuse somebody. You don't have to physically abuse somebody. And, and I said, well, that's what I done. I stopped the cycle. My mom stopped the cycle because she was, both. Yeah. And, just finding somebody like my wife that's very educated on those kind of things. And like what her job was to deal with kids that were sexually and physically abused from the ages 6 and under. So that's really, mind blowing. And she goes, you don't understand how much PTSD you have from something like that, or something that happened to you like that. That's has a lot to do with your upbringing. It has a lot to do with how, if you go to prison, if you do drugs, and
Right.
things like that, or even if you don't do any high risk behaviors like that, you're still more likely to get cancer, have heart problems, and things like that, because all that stuff affects your body. So
Right.
I feel for you on that, and that's something that's sounds like very difficult to live with, and I'm sure you live with it every day.
Yep. 100%.
That's why I didn't want. That's why I didn't want to talk about it anymore. With you, though, I was like, all right, if he's going to bring it up, then I'll talk about it. But that's something difficult. But let's go ahead and just move on past that.
Yep,
And I
yep.
really am sorry about that. But what is, and please don't think that I'm talking light about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to sit there and relive it.
No.
That's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yep.
But what is your plans with martial arts in the future? What do you plan on doing? Of course, you're going to keep going with the PFL. Are you going to be opening
Right.
different gyms, or what's Ray Sugar? Are you going to like stop being called Sugarfoot and maybe like be called Sugar Splenda or Equal? So you're not as sweet. What's the ordeal?
Obviously right now, I mean, the goal is to continue to grow PFL. We are, we announced the partnership in England, and that we will be in the UK for the second and the third playoffs. And that's us growing. And I believe we're in about 50 countries around the world now. And so the goal is continue to grow PFL. And also in terms of my fighters and whatnot, is to the goal for them is to become world champions, as it was for me. Once I realized that fighting was going to be what I was going to do, being a world champion was the goal. And so that was the goal from day one, and that would continue to be the goal from now on, here on in. And we don't know what comes tomorrow, so we just got to hope for the best.
Make it each day the best that it can be, and that's
Exactly.
definitely something.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this: when it comes to your children, would you be disappointed if they got into fighting, or is that something you're kind of swaying them away from?
I'm 100% swinging them away from it. I don't want my kids to be fighters. And people have said, well, you've done well through fighting. I said, yeah, no, 100%. But I'm one of the very small percentage of fighters that get to that kind of spot or position. Yep. And it's a tough life, but I'm able to provide for them, so they don't need to, go through that kind of toughness to get to where they want to do. And so 100% they're going to train, they're going to spar and do martial arts and understand self-defense and whatnot.
Yes.
But like I tell my son, I'm teaching you to fight so you don't have to fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is when you sit there and talk about martial arts or anything, they're sitting there thinking, oh, you're learning violence. No, you're learning not to be violent.
Right.
When you learn self-defense and you have to use self-defense, you're not the violent one. It's the one that's coming to attack you is the violent person, or otherwise you would never have to use it. Right. So, just like you sit there and said, they don't have to fight. Like, if they want to be in the fight business, I mean, you have a business to put them in, that they could still be around fighting if that's what they want. And like you brought it up, that you was fortunate to be able to do what you're at now. Really, I mean, look at the odds. Look at the odds of any fighter, or how many fighters there are throughout the world being able to be in the position where you're at now, right?
Exactly. And so, and that's, the key point to that is when people say, well, you are where you are. I say, yeah, but I mean, that's a very, very small percentage of fighters that make it there.
Yeah.
And so, my son, it's funny because at 3, he it was the end of year, kind of graduation, saying goodbye, and one of the things, so they all got up, his class all got up to say thank you and tell us what they wanted to be when they grew up. My son wanted to be a marine biologist at age of 3, and which is amazing to me, because even to now, he's 12 now, and that's still his mindset, his goal, and he gets to create these fish tanks and projects for school and whatnot. And so it's really awesome to see that that's where his mindset is at, that's where his passion is at. In terms of sports, he's actually, this past year, he's found love for basketball. He's 12 and he's the same height as me, 6 foot.
Oh.
So, and my daughter, she's such a smart little girl. So I think for Adriana, I think whatever she puts her mind to, she's gonna blossom. I have no worries about Adriana at all. But she also shows me a lot of signs of that feistiness.
Yeah, but I wonder where she gets that from, huh?
Exactly. That's what my wife says. Yeah, and so now, if they, at some point that's what they want to do and kind of experience something, I'm 100% going to be there to support them. Yeah. But obviously, my goal is to sway them away from that world.
Yeah, that's just like
it's
my wife.
It's kind of like.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I remember George Foreman saying in an interview that the reason why he boxed is because he never wanted his kids to box.
Yeah. That's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you put in all those hours and 110 fights just so they don't have to fight.
Exactly.
Physically, financially,
Right.
You sound like one of those dads that are going to be there for the kids, make sure that everything's okay, and help them follow their dreams, no matter what it may be, as long as
100%.
Yeah, but like my wife says all the time with our 4-year-old, well, she'll be 5. Well, she'll be 5 July 22nd next month. So, it looks like I just spit her right out of my mouth. She looks just like me. She's a goofball just like me. Like, because she's 4.5. We have a 6-year-old grandson. We have a 19-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 27-year-old. And we had the oops baby, right? So her nephew is a year older than she is. So, but yeah, she's a goofball just like me. So, Ray, I'm going to let you go, and 100% appreciate you being on the show. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, maybe you can come back on some other time if you found it interesting. And
yes, sir.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And I got to say, this is one of the fun interviews that I've had. So this is awesome.
Well, thank you, Ray.